It doesn't feel all that long ago when I was making a video previewing the previous Le Mans 24 Hours, but here we are, ready and raring to go for the pre-centenary edition of one of racing's crown jewel events, and also one of the greatest challenges that any racing team or driver can face. Adaptability, speed, endurance, traffic management, and raw determination are all key to having any chance at winning this race. Then you have to contend with the factor that no one can control: luck. Something for a while that Toyota couldn't seem to get whatsoever. That being said though, considering my previous preview lasted nearly 26 minutes, my goal for this preview is to make it a bit more concise. So, in that case, let's get on with it. The flagship class of endurance racing might be somewhat low on entries for this season, but expect this time next year that entry to go up tenfold. And I'm not just talking about loads of privateer entries made up of teams of 5 people making a car out of MDF in a shed in the middle of nowhere in the English countryside. It will be world-renowned manufacturers that in turn have massive motorsport pedigrees, particularly in this race. However, don't think it doesn't mean that this year's top category will be one to forget. Any of the 5 cars can win this category, as they all have strengths and weaknesses, and if the previous races at Sebring and Spa are anything to go by, this should be quite the show. A mainstay at Le Mans for the last few years, this category features the biggest combined grid of all the classes in this race, albeit separated into 2 different classes. LMP2 features cars that are all pro, although the rules state that they must have a silver-rated driver in the lineup. For the subcategory LMP2 Pro-Am, the driver roster must include a bronze-rated driver. Both categories have a blue number panel, however, just so that you're able to distinguish which ones are pro and which ones are Pro-Am, then the number board will have a small black and white graphic below which has Pro-Am written on it. The TV graphics should also have the same graphic next to them as well. A class that includes a big manufacturer presence, GTE Pro has the fastest Grand Touring-based cars that racing has to offer, albeit the point of the cars is to vaguely resemble the sort of sports and supercars that you'd see on the road. If only that was what you'd see on the road. These cars, though, are being slowly phased out, as unfortunately the interest in this category has dwindled over the years, and a new GT3-based category will be introduced hopefully in 2024. The lineups are, as you'd expect, all pro drivers. So this class is basically exactly the same as the one I just showed you, except the driver lineups must include at least 1 bronze and 1 silver driver. These are all privateer efforts, which in essence are completely funded by the bronze driver, who are fairly wealthy individuals who may have/had careers as venture capitalists, supermarket ownership, virtual reality gaming devices, acting, or a career that is commonly used as somewhat of a regular joke: dentists. That may not sound like a recipe for an exciting class. However, this is usually the category that produces the most exciting racing, given that all the drivers, whether they're a bronze or platinum driver, have a vital role to play. On to the drivers and teams, and we will begin with, as you'd expect, the Hypercar category. Toyota clearly have to be seen as favourites, but they will be facing stiff competition. Whilst the GR010 remains unchanged from the car that raced in last year's Le Mans, one thing has changed from a driver's perspective, in that Kazuki Nakajima has retired from racing and has become a Toyota Racing Vice Chairman. Aside from that, it's pretty much as you were at Toyota on the driving front. Number 7 has Mike Conway, Mario Kobayashi and Jose Maria Lopez, who will hope to make less of an impact than he did at Sebring, whilst for number 8 it's Sebastian Buemi, Brendan Hartley and Nakajima's protege, Ryo Hirakawa. It's no change either at Alpine, as the last race at Le Mans for the grandfathered LMP1 car will have the same trio as 2021. So it's a welcome back for Nico Lapierre, Andre Negrão and Mathieu Vaxivière. Glickenhaus will add a second car to its presence at Le Mans like it did last year, and it will also have the same 6 drivers, yet not in the same lineup. For car 708, Pipo Derani and Olivier Pla will be joined by Romain Dumas, while in car 709, Romain's former place in the 709 will instead be taken up by the person he replaces, Franck Malieu, who in turn will be partnered alongside IndyCar legend Ryan Briscoe and experienced endurance racer Richard Westbrook. Now it's on to the rather stacked grid in the LMP2 class. I said in my last Le Mans video that Jota began racing life with a Honda Integra at the Nürburgring 24 Hours in 2000, so I thought I might as well give another interesting fact about this team, and that they've competed in the Renault Clio V6 trophy. Of course, the Clio V6 and the Oracle do share one thing in common, in that they're both mid-engined. Both of Jota's efforts are forces to be reckoned with. Car 28 is Jonathan Aberdeen, Ed Jones and Oliver Rasmussen, whilst number 38 is Antonio Felix da Costa, Will Stevens and Roberto Gonzalez, who's competed in 16 Champ Car races in the past. You probably know this already, but United Autosport is co-owned by former racing driver Richard Dean, and also by a little-known American entrepreneur called Zach Brown. This team, though, will be making history. Not with Car 22, unless they win the class of course, with its ever-present lineup of Felipe Albuquerque, Philip Hansen and Will Owen. For Car 23 though, British duo Oliver Jarvis and Alex Lynn will be joined alongside the youngest ever starter of the Le Mans 24 Hours at the age of 16, Josh Pearson, assuming the car isn't written off beforehand. Now, who'd have thought that one of endurance racing's powerhouses is a Polish baking firm? If a fortune teller could have provided me with this information 10 years ago, I'd have asked someone to have thwacked me over the head with an overcooked baguette. In the car's full season World Endurance Championship entry of Car 34, we have Esteban Gutierrez, Jakub Smikowski, and someone who's eager to follow in his father's footsteps and rub shoulder to shoulder with Sky F1's David Croft, Alex Brundle. Car 43 is a Le Mans only entry for Fabio Scherer, David Heinemeier Hansen, and Pietro Fittipaldi. Looking to repeat what they did last year, the formidable WRT outfit are strong contenders for getting the LMP2 victory again. The team were even faster than the Hypercar class cars at Spa in the wet this year, but eventually lost the lead when the rain stopped falling. Car 31 has Sean Gelael, Robin Freins and René Rast. Meanwhile, in a Le Mans only entry for the WRT squad, they will also be adding a second car, which if it wasn't for the lack of Le Mans experience that all the drivers have, then Car 32 would definitely be a contender for me. Mirko Bortolotti, Rolf Venetian and Dries Vanthoor will pilot the rather distinctive green Oreca. WRT will also help facilitate a third car, but it is in essence in a partnership with Real Team, which competed last year in the Pro-Am class as its own team. Rui Andrade, Norman Nato and quite possibly one of motorsport's longest names, Ferdinand Habsburg, that's only part of it, will drive Car 41. It's been a difficult start to life as a race team for Vector Sport. They hope that Le Mans can give the team at the very least a calm, clean and consistent run. Unfortunately, as it's Le Mans, the chances of that happening range from slim to non-existent. Sebastian Bourdais, Ryan Cullen and Nico Muller drive number 10. It's a unique and diverse lineup in the Richard Mille entry. Lilou Wadou has done an awesome job for the team in this WEC season, whilst we have 8-time World Rally Champion Sébastien Ogier in his Le Mans debut. Alongside the pair is LMP2 stalwart Charles Mallacy in Car 1. The team set up by supposedly France's second best racing driver is a regular on the European Le Mans Series stage. The drivers for Car 65 include Job van Uyter, Nico Jamin and Julian Canal, who's won his class in Le Mans 3 times, where the first time he won the GT1 class driving a Celine S7R. Cool Racing might be a dark horse for victory, as joining Niklas Krute in Car 37 is Chinese driver Yifei Ye, who was so cruelly denied victory last year on the last lap, and Ricky Taylor has shown his abilities in Oreca-based machinery. Cool Racing is certainly a hot prospect. What an iconic team with an iconic owner. This might only be a build-up to a factory effort with Porsche next year, however, is the captain really going to snuff his eyes at a chance of winning a class at Le Mans? If you doubted his commitment right up to Roger's face, he'd be giving you short shrift. Team Penske will have Dane Cameron, Emmanuel Collard and Felipe Nasr. Prema might be new to endurance racing, but they've hit the ground running. Winning both rounds of the European Le Mans Series and a 4th place at Sebring show that they mean business. Joining Lorenzo Colombo and Louis Delatraz in the number 9 is part-time F1 driver, very part-time, and an inspiration as to never giving up, Robert Kubica. Duquin do make their own prototype cars in the LMP3 ranks, however as they don't do an LMP2 car yet, then they just go with what everyone else uses, which is an Oreca. Trust me, we do have some non-Orecas in LMP2. In Car 30 is Richard Bradley, Rashad DeGeris and Memo Rojas. Edex Sport have been in the unfortunate situation of where last year they had to withdraw a car due to a practice crash. Let's hope they firmly stay away from the barriers rather than firmly hitting barriers, with Car 48 driven by French trio Patrick Pilet, Paul Lafargue and Paul-Loup Chatin. We now move on to the LMP2 Pro-Am subclass, where we begin with Algarve Pro Racing. This is the only team to field 2 entries in this category, and car number 45 has already had a practice prang. Stephen Thomas will look to make amends in the race alongside his co-pilots in René Binder and James Allen, who, if you're wondering, is not the same James Allen who said, "Oh my goodness me," after Martin Brundle exclaimed, "Is that Glock?" Meanwhile, in Car 47 we have John Falb, Severe Flourish, and someone who's partial or two to the odd joke in Jack Aitken. Nielsen Racing earned their way into this race by winning the Asian Le Mans Series this year, so to celebrate the team's bronze-rated driver decided that he wanted to incorporate a pop-art style livery to his Oreca, so let's hope the engine doesn't pop quite like the bodywork does. Alongside Rodrigo Sales and Matt Bell is one of racing's completely underappreciated talents in Ben Hanley. The rather simply named Ultimate Squad will enter Le Mans with a French trio. Francois Herault will have Jean-Baptiste Lahaye and Mathieu Lahaye alongside him in the number 35 car, which is operated by Tech 1 Racing. One of the few entries on the grid that has 2 bronze drivers in its lineup, Graf Racing could be an underlier in this race. The team set up by former racing driver Jean-Philippe Grond in 1985 will compete in Car 39 with Sébastien Page, Eric Trouillet and David Dreux. TDS Racing with Valiant, which is a fictional French automotive company apparently, has shown some really impressive speed, even mixing it up with the all-pro LMP2 lineups in the practice sessions. Philippe Cimadomo will have Tiedemann van der Helm and Matthias Besch in Car 13. AF Corsa usually runs Ferraris in the GT categories of multiple different racing series around the world. However, this season they're also running an LMP2 class car for François Perrodo alongside Niklas Nielsen and Alessio Rivera in Car 83. Possible preparation for the Ferrari Hypercar effort? We shall see. This isn't a debut per se, but for the Luxembourg-based DKR engineering team, they'll be going in at the deep end of a swimming pool, except the depth is well over 1,000 metres. Plus, this is the first time they've raced an LMP2 car, so it'll be an interesting experience for Alexandre Cournot, Jean Glorieux and Laurence Her in Car 3. To put it mildly, it's been a tricky start to the WEC season for ARC Bratislava. However, things look a bit more optimistic for the number 44 Orica, as alongside Miroslav Knopka is highly regarded youngster Bent Fiscal and someone who amazingly has never competed at Le Mans despite his impressive sports car resume, Tristan Vautier. We finally round off the LMP2 cars with CD Sports in not an Orica. Isn't it awesome to see a different shape? Unfortunately, the brutal reality is that the Ligier just doesn't cut the mustard at the moment in the current LMP2 rule set. This could be a long afternoon for Christoph Cresp, Michael Jensen and Stephen Pallette in Car 27. Over to GTE Pro, and AF Corse have been running cars at Le Mans since 2008, and in that time they've been stores of Le Mans and running Ferraris throughout its history. In that time they've collected 5 class victories at Le Mans, including 2 last year, and have also entered in collaboration with NASCAR star Michael Waltrip in the past. For this year, the goal is simple: do exactly the same as they did last year, which was win the Pro and Am class. The lineups are slightly different to what they were last year. In Car 51 it's James Collado, Alessandro Pierguidi and Daniel Serra, whilst Car 52 has Miguel Molina, Davide Rigon and Antonio Fuoco. Hoping to add another victory at Le Mans to the 4,247,903,318 that it's already garnered is Porsche, with its manufacturer-backed GT effort. Car 91 is a direct copy and paste with last year's car in terms of that they're running Gianmaria Bruni, Ricard Leitz and Frederic Macavecchi again. Car 92 though does have one change. Neil Yarni is gone and in his place comes Lance Vantur, who hopefully has forgotten about this year's Daytona 24 Hours. Alongside him is Michael Christensen and Kevin Estra, who returned from last year. Corvette have not won Le Mans since 2015, and the team would desperately like to get the C8 its first ever win, as the previous C6R and C7R models have already collected victory at the French Classic. Especially when you consider the fact that this class of car won't be used after 2023, so therefore they only have 2 chances remaining at success. They aren't messing around either with its driver lineup. In Car 63 it's Nicky Katzberg, Antonio Garcia and Rodney Sandstorm himself, Jordan Taylor. Meanwhile for Car 64 it's Tommy Milner, Alexander Sims and Nick Tandy. Riley Motorsports are the only entry in this class as privateer, and they're looking to prove with this recognisable Ferrari that it is possible to win this class with a non-manufacturer backing. It may contain the only gold drivers of this entire class alongside Sam Bird, but seriously, the fact that Felipe Fraga and Shane van Gisbergen are gold-rated drivers by the FIA is completely and utterly ludicrous. Now on to the GTE Am field, and it's the biggest single class of this Le Mans 24 Hours, so take a deep breath. Project One have raced Porsches throughout its entire history since 1993. Car 46 is run solely by the team and contains drivers of Mikael Pedersen, Matteo Cairoli and Nicky Leutwiler, who was only announced in the entry just a week prior to the season opener in Sebring. Car 56, meanwhile, is run in a partnership with Inception Racing, which in turn is run by Optimum Motorsport. Honestly, this endurance racing stuff is confusing. Either way, number 56 will be run by Brendan Arebe, Ollie Milroy and Ben Barnicoat. One of less than a handful of Aston Martins competing in this race, the ever-jolly Texan car dealer Ben Keating is back once again, and for what is, for the first time, him in the same car as he used last year. Alongside him is Enrique Chavez and Aston factory driver Marco Sorensen. D-Station Racing are returning as well to Le Mans, with TS Sport once again behind the technical support for this car. Satoshi Hoshino and Tomonobu Fuji return from last year, and Charlie Fagg takes over the 3rd seat. Meanwhile, AF Corsa are back once again, and it's fielding 3 cars in this class. They're also assisting another entry, but more on them later. For its full season entries, the lineups are unchanged. Car 21 is Christoph Ulrich, Simon Mann, and the team's trump card, Tony Villander. For the second entry, it will definitely be one to look out for, as Francesco Castellacci and Nick Cassidy are joined by Thomas Fleur, who spun round in the first practice session. Hopefully it's more foot to the floor rather than any more foots trudging through the gravel traps. Meanwhile, its one-off entry caps off the 6 entrants that AF Corsa are doing completely themselves in this race. In car 61, it's Konrad Grunewald, Louis Pret, and someone who knows how to extract lots of speed from Mercedes GT3 cars, Vincent Abril. Proton Competition are either entering or assisting 5 cars in this race, all of which are in the same class. For 2 of its entries, it'll be in a partnership with actor Patrick Dempsey, not Peter Dempsey like I said in last year's Le Mans preview. Car 77 looks a very tricky car to beat in this class, as Sebastian Priaulx and Harry Tingnell join Proton Competition owner Christian Reed. Meanwhile, Car 88 has Fred Pordad as its bronze, Max Root as its silver, and Jan Halen as its unlimited driver. For the number 93, Patrick Dempsey doesn't want to play any role in this car whatsoever, so instead Christian has handed over the acting link to Michael Fassbender. Except he'll be driving at Le Mans, and for the first time as well. His co-stars are Zachary Robichon and Matt Campbell. WeatherTech Racing enter into a partnership with Proton Competition for this race once again, except it's in GTE Am this time. Cooper McNeil returns, and the bronze driver slot had a shootout for it, and apparently Thomas Peril won. Julian Andlauer joins them. Car 99 has had a rollercoaster ride before the car has even turned a cog. Hardpoint Motorsport eventually declined on the automatic entry they received, and in the end Absolute Racing got the late call up to race, albeit due to the rules, still under the Hardpoint name. The Proton-backed effort includes Estonia's first Le Mans starter, Martin Rump, Andrew Harrianto and Alessio Picciarello. Iron Lynx were founded in 2017 by former Aston Martin works driver Andrea Pacini, alongside 3 others, one of which is racing the number 60 entry. Claudio Schiavone has Raffaele Gianmaria and Alessandro Balzan alongside him. The second entry is a one-off effort that is being run in a small partnership with Rinaldi Racing. Pierre Herré, Nicolas Ferrone and Christian Hook in car 75 will look to cling on to the chance of a Le Mans victory right up until the checkered flag. Car 80 for me looks like a rather daunting task for the rest of the field to overcome, as Matteo Cressoni is somehow a silver driver, Richard Highstand for a bronze has demonstrated in IMSA that he's not a slow pedaler by any stretch of the imagination, and Giancarlo Fisichella is, well, Giancarlo Fisichella. One of the awesome things that Iron Lynx also do is include an all-female team which is called the Iron Dames, but is very much run by Iron Lynx. Sarah Bovey, Michelle Gatti and Rahel Frey drive Car 85. Hopefully, for all 4 of these cars, the iron doesn't rust too quickly. The last Aston Martin in the field is being driven by Paul Dalla who never fails to show up at Le Mans with an Aston Martin. What I'm glad Paul has done is show some faith in an underrated talent in David Pittard. You don't get a lap record at the Nürburgring if you're a bad driver. Nicky Team joins the pair in car 98. Kessel Racing caught the eyes of a few at the Le Mans test day by being the fastest GTE Am car unexpectedly. However, this means it's one extra car to keep an eye on in the race. Not with a livery like that though, or you're going to turn heads the wrong way. Takeshi Kimura, Frederick Schandorf and Peugeot Hypercar driver Mikkel Jensen drive car 57. Spirit of Race entered 2 cars into this year's Le Mans. The full-season European Le Mans Series car is being driven by the usual trio of popular sim racing YouTuber David Perel, Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin in car 55, which is also carrying a decal to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee. Whilst in the full-season World Endurance Championship entry, Frank Desoto and Pierre Rag have Gabriel Aubry alongside them, who's in his debut season of GT racing after several years in the prototype ranks. GR Racing apparently seemed like they weren't going to be racing in WEC after last year with its black and orange highlighted Porsche. However, for whatever reason, they're back. So, for what could still be the last time, Michael Wainwright is joined by regular teammate Ben Barker and Italian driver Riccardo Pera in car 86. In what is the smallest team on the grid, JMW Motorsport have been mainstays of Le Mans and have achieved success by winning this class before. Why couldn't they do it again this year in the number 66 Ferrari with Mark Cavame, Jason Hart and supposedly the team's top gun in IMSA Cadillac DPI driver Renger van der Zande. And to round it all off, we have the number 59 Inception Racing Ferrari, which is being run in a partnership between Inception Racing and Garage 59, along with technical support from AF Corsa. The lineup is a strong one: Marvin Klein, Colm Ledegar and Alexander West, who's taking up late 90s McLaren F1 cars at the Goodwood Hill Climb. So now that we've gone through all 62 cars extensively, I guess the last place to finish is how on earth you can watch this race, whether you live on Earth or you are watching from the International Space Station. Like, that's really going to be an occurrence. Well, in the description of this video I'll include a link to the official TV providers for around the world via the WEC/24 Hours of Le Mans website. Aside from that, then that is basically it, other than I would highly encourage you go and check out the people who do all these photographs, as I've cropped them pretty heavily, and they all look darn great despite that. And it'll give you a chance to check out loads of other photos these lot have done, and have them as your desktop background if you so wish. And also see the photos that I've got in this video when they aren't in a cropped out mess done by me. That is all from me though, thank you very much for watching, enjoy the race, it's going to be a cracker, and until the next video, enjoy the rest of your day.